Hello, everyone. If I have not had a chance to meet you yet, my name is Tara Kruger, and I am the marketing coordinator here at C&W Technologies. I would like to first welcome you all to our virtual Lunch and Learn Microsoft Copilot AI webinar entitled The Future of AI in the Workplace. We are thrilled to have such a diverse group of attendees. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we will have the opportunity to hear from C&W Technologies CEO, Eric Keene, and one of our partners, Andrew Bratwaite, who will discuss the importance of AI in today's business landscape. Before we begin, I would like to mention a few housekeeping details. The meeting will be recorded for future reference. All participants' microphones and cameras will be disabled throughout the presentation. However, please feel free to use the chat feature if you have any questions or comments during the session. I will be monitoring the chat closely and will address them accordingly. Also, we have a special offer for our attendees to show our appreciation for your participation. C&W Technologies will be providing a gift card for Lunch on Us. However, to be eligible for this offer, you must stay until the end of the webinar and complete a post-event survey, which will be sent via email after the session. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the presentation. So without further ado, let's get started. First, I would like to hand it over to Eric Keene to share more about who we are as a company and why we believe AI is crucial for businesses today.
Thank you, Tara. Well, I'm glad everybody was able to make it here today. I think this is an exciting time for technology in general and AI and how it's going to really affect the small to mid-sized business. This is really truly going to be a game changer for our industry and for your small business or mid-sized business. The ability to leverage AI in your workforce, and I hope you will think about it in that terms, is considerable. I imagine being able to take your existing workforce and have a multiplying factor where one person could be doing maybe essentially the work of three. So you could at least two, and you may not even have to add additional team members going forward to be able to expand what the productivity and efficiency that you want that you might need. We've C&W Technologies, we've been in business for 39 years, and we always have a tendency to look at the leading edge technology that's out there and how to apply it to the small to mid-sized business. And that's exactly where AI fits in. So I want you to hopefully sit back, learn a little bit about what AI can do. And the one issue that people have is like, how am I going to apply AI in my business, in my world? And that's where we come in. We help you figure that out. Because AI, for all the show-stopping capabilities, really can be customized or tweaked to be able to fit your particular environment. So without any more talking about any more about us or about how this might play into your world, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew and let him just kind of really show you what AI can do for you. Andrew?
Fantastic, and I appreciate that very much. And so again, welcome to each and every one of you, and for providing us with some time to have this conversation with you. And I use the word conversation intentionally. If there is a question or comment that you have, as you would have heard already, please type that into the chat and we'll respond. And then we'll go from there. You can put your hand up if you like, and if you wanted to verbalize a thought, we'll try to help out and make that happen so that this can be as interactive as possible. And so it is about the future of AI in the workplace. We know that AI is going to permeate throughout all things not having to do with work from a leisure perspective, personal life, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to touch on some of the things that you see here. In fact, I'm going to touch on all of them. That's why I have them highlighted here. An intro to Copilot for Microsoft 365 has actually now been even rebranded, same product, but now as Microsoft 365 Copilot. And so it's the same thing. I mentioned that just so that it doesn't cause any confusion for you. I'm going to show you some demos, a few examples of Copilot in action as well, and then we'll wrap things up by the time we get to the top of the hour. How many of you, by a show of hands, are already using AI in some form, in some capacity, whether it's to create wedding invitations, party invitations, or to do research? So there's three people. All right. Anyone else want to put your hand up or somehow acknowledge four? Okay, great. Um, Anyone else? Okay. I see maybe about a third of the room. Well, actually, some more people are becoming brave and putting their hands up. So I appreciate that because that actually helped me to know that many of you are already immersed in using it, whether it's Copilot, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Gemini, whether it's any of the other multitude of technologies that are out there. You know it, you're using it, that's great. There are a few with us today who are not as of yet, that's okay as well. I will highlight that the train has left the station as far as AI is concerned, and we all need to figure out where it's going to fit within our work life, especially. The personal stuff, leisure stuff, that's easy. But when it comes to business, a few more things have to come into play because the security aspects and things like that now become tantamount to how quickly we jump into this. Here's one stat, and there's only a couple that I'm going to be sharing with you. It's not going to be a math class, I promise, but 87%, as you can see here, of organizations believe that AI will give them a competitive edge. Are you among the 87%? I just leave that out there. Don't need a response right now. But here's a stat that I think is even more impactful, more meaningful, something that you ought to pay even closer attention to. 75% of knowledge workers are already using AI at work today. And you can always, if you're interested in having access to the deck afterwards, I'd be happy to provide that to Tara and CNW. There is a link at the bottom here that you can click on that'll take you to more information and provide you with some context from where this stat came from. But I just want you to keep this in mind. It shouldn't be shocking or surprising, but 75% is a big chunk of change. And that means that your data is in play in some capacity. I'm going to come back to that as we continue here. Copilot for Microsoft 365 or Microsoft 365 Copilot is our focus for this morning. And this is an AI-powered digital assistant. And I see a couple of hands are up. Now, is that from the previous question I asked earlier, or do you have a new question that you'd like to pose right now? If you
I
do, I
think
would just,
those were from the previous question you had asked, Andrew.
okay, fantastic, no problem. All right, so Copilot for Microsoft 365, an AI-powered digital assistant. For those of you who are already using AI to get your work done, it may be this, it may be something else, but you understand what I mean when I say AI-powered digital assistant. Because the same way you would use something like a ChatGPT or others, you type in your question or your request, which we actually refer to as a prompt. So you type in your prompt, you hit enter, it goes into the technology, and it spits out a response. Copilot for Microsoft 365 works in the same way, but there are added benefits, and I'm going to touch on those. It's an add-on subscription, so let me call that out. This is a subscription that you need to add to something else. What you're looking at here in front of you is a list of the licenses that will support Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you have any of these licenses, it's not to suggest that everyone in your organization has to be on the same license. You can have any assortment of these. It's just as long as someone has one of them, then they are qualified to add Microsoft 365 Copilot. The add-on is just adding AI to the license that you see so that AI technology becomes available when you're using things like Word or Excel or PowerPoint or OneDrive for Business. Take, for instance, Business Premium, which is really regarded by Microsoft as the hero SKU for small and medium-sized businesses. Business Premium, Business Standard, and Business Basic are capped at 300, meaning if you are in an organization that has fewer than 300 people, you ought to take a look at Business Premium, Standard, or Basic, in particular Business Premium, as the SKU or as the license that is suited for your particular organization. The enterprise licenses like Microsoft 365 E3 or E5 or any that you see in that particular grouping, that's for an unlimited number of users. Is there anything wrong with a 10-person organization using an E3 or E5? Absolutely not. But you will find there is a price advantage with something like Business Premium when you compare it to an E3 or E5. And you're not losing anything really, because Business Premium, being the hero SKU for small and mid-sized businesses, includes advanced security features that you won't find with a Business Standard or Business Basic. And that matters, especially in this era of AI. And I'll elaborate that as we continue. However, anything that you see here, if you have one of these licenses, you're good to go. You can order Microsoft 365 Copilot. Down at the bottom, the right-hand corner for education, there is a specific SKU for those of you who order A-class licenses. The A stands for academic. If you are in the education space, high school, school board, college or university, and if you're ordering the A1s, A3s, or A5s, then you can also order Microsoft 365 Copilot for education to attach to those A-class licenses. So let me summarize what I've just been saying here. There are actually two types of Microsoft 365 Copilot subscriptions. One, which is just for the education users, those who are ordering the A-class licenses. And then there is a commercial version for everybody else. Anyone else in public sector, government, retail, you name it. If you're not in the education space, you order the commercial, and that's it. Hopefully that didn't muddy the waters too much for you. All right, let me just keep going because I wanted to make sure that you understood how the licensing works. In terms of how you would go about using this then, well, think of it this way. If you're using AI around the house for leisure purposes, for non-business purposes, all right, so let's keep that piece in mind for the moment. You don't really think too hard about how am I going to use it. You just use it. You ask the question, you say, I need this type of info, or what do you think about this, or plan a day away in Venice, Italy. What are some things that I can do, right? And you use it how you use it. In business, similar concept, although now it's going to be focused on the work that you have in front of you to get done. Here are some examples of those use cases. For document management, content creation, that'll apply to pretty much everyone, especially if you are in a marketing or promotion role. Copilot can assist in creating and optimizing content for websites, blogs, social media, and Word and PowerPoint, things like that. Meeting preparation, this would apply to most of you. And hopefully you use Microsoft Teams for your meetings. Copilot can help prepare for meetings by generating agendas, summarizing previous meeting notes, and things like that. So these are some examples just to get you thinking about how you can use AI in broad terms, and more specifically, Microsoft 365 Copilot to help you get your work done on a day-to-day basis. A few other examples here: marketing and sales, inventory management. Although Copilot itself doesn't directly manage inventory, it can help to analyze the inventory data. Customer relationship management can help manage customer interactions by summarizing emails, tracking follow-ups, and then data analysis, etc. So hopefully this has been helpful. If it gave you some new ideas or maybe confirmed some ideas that you had in terms of how you might use AI or Copilot in your business on a day-to-day basis. Because the whole idea is to help boost productivity and creativity and to save some time as well. I'll give you a couple of examples there in a moment. So on the one hand, it's about user enablement. What are the good things? What are the features about Microsoft 365 Copilot? How is it going to help me to get my work done? How is it going to help me to become more creative and more effective, more efficient, and more productive? On the other hand, or I would say in a parallel track, if we're thinking about car tracks in the road, right? So if you live in a snowy part of the country, snow is going to fall soon enough. Sorry to have to burst that bubble, but you're going to see tire tracks through town in parallel. One side is user enablement, the other side having to do with technical readiness. This really more specifically is about security. So let's just get to that right now. AI, great, fantastic, is going to do all of these good things, but is my data secure? If you have been protecting proactively your data and your identities, and you've got a perimeter or your IT folks have set up and are proactively managing your data and your identities, making sure everything is safe and protected, when you introduce Copilot into that environment, it's not going to overwrite anything. It's not going to change anything. It is going to operate within those same security parameters. And so two conversations need to be had about the same thing. Even if we're talking about AI in general, you need to obviously talk about what's visible, what's obvious, and that's how is this going to help me get work done. But then the part that's underwater, the larger piece of the iceberg, the security. Make sure that you have been proactively managing and monitoring your security so that when you introduce AI into that environment, it's a happy experience and there's nothing that's embarrassing about it. You want to make sure that your internal confidential data remains protected, your partner and supplier data remains protected, and any customer data that you have remains protected. Microsoft 365 Copilot is going to inherit, that's right, it's going to inherit your security, your privacy, your identity, and your compliance policies. Whatever you have in place, it is going to work within those parameters. So let me say this in a different way. The permissions that are assigned to me or to you in your business environment, right? Whatever the permissions are that allow you to see and have access to certain files and data, Copilot is going to work within those same permissions and those parameters. Whatever is restricted to you or to me will also be restricted to Copilot. So as a user, it is going to operate as if it's me, have visibility and access to things that I'm allowed to have access to, and it's not going to have visibility or access to the things that I am not allowed to have access to. That's how it works. Let's watch this.
Microsoft 365 Copilot is transforming work with the power of generative AI. It's built on Microsoft's comprehensive approach to enterprise-grade security, compliance, privacy, identity, and responsible AI. Copilot automatically inherits your organization's Microsoft 365 security, compliance, and privacy policies, so you know your data is protected and always in your control. It all starts with your Microsoft 365 tenant. Data stored in your tenant is encrypted and only available to the users within that tenant. Your existing Microsoft 365 permissions and policies ensure that data won't leak between users and groups. And Copilot users only have access to data they've been granted permission to see in Microsoft 365, using the same technology customers have relied on for years. Your tenant sits inside the Microsoft 365 service boundary, where Microsoft's commitments to security, compliance, data location, and privacy are upheld. The Copilot large language models, or LLMs, that process your data sit within that same boundary, much like other Microsoft 365 services. Microsoft does not have eyes-on access, which means no one can view your data. Your data is not used to train the LLMs. And our EU customers can be confident that their data is processed within the EU data boundary. Microsoft 365 Copilot, enterprise-grade security and privacy for the era of generative AI.
So I like to include that because it explains it even better. It summarizes what I've been trying to explain and describe to you there. So hopefully that was helpful. If you're already using a Microsoft 365 license, then there are protections that are already in place for each user so that your data and your identities remain protected and safe. When you introduce Microsoft 365 Copilot into your environment and you assign that per user, it's an add-on license, it's not going to overwrite anything. It's not going to add anything other than AI technology. But from a security perspective, you're introducing it into the same fenced off area. The fence that exists around your Microsoft environment also exists around Copilot. Your data and your identities are and will be protected. Here is a distinction, another distinction that I'll call out between Copilot for Microsoft 365 and the other technologies like ChatGPT or the multitude that's out there. When you're working with ChatGPT or similar, you're working in a public environment. Powerful technology, works well, people love it, no issues there. But for a business, if you or other staff members are working with sensitive data, confidential data, you're cutting and pasting that into something like a ChatGPT or similar. So you're going from your private environment into a public, unprotected, uncontrolled environment. You're getting the benefits of the AI. It's giving you what you need. Fantastic. But for the length of time that your data is out there is the amount of time that a bad actor has to get access to it. What if you could bring AI into your protected Microsoft environment? Would that be a preferred solution? Because continuing to go between private and public and private and public, you're putting your business, your data, your identities at risk. Is that sustainable versus working with AI in your protected Microsoft environment? That's the question that you would want to ask. Because if you'd rather keep everything locked down and protected as it has been up until now, and still benefit from AI, the way to do that is with Copilot for Microsoft 365, Microsoft 365 Copilot. When you type in your prompt, you say, Copilot, do this for me, or provide this information for me. You type that in, you hit enter, it goes into the technology. Here's the first difference between how Copilot works and the others. When it goes into the technology, it first is going to go for pre-processing, which involves the semantic index and the Microsoft graph. The Microsoft graph is a gateway, simplifying this extremely. Microsoft Graph is a gateway to all of your Microsoft data, whether it's your personal business data or your company data. It's everything that pertains to you within your Microsoft environment. The Microsoft Graph gives access to that. The semantic index actually creates a map of all of that data to understand the relationships between that data and the user, understanding the context and the concepts. So when your prompt goes for pre-processing, the semantic index is now asking, what do you want? What's the meaning of your prompt? The purpose of the semantic index at this point is to decipher and interpret the meaning of your prompt. And with an understanding of that, now data is retrieved through the Microsoft Graph, data that's relevant to your prompt. That retrieved data plus your prompt together are now sent to the large language model, the LLM. And again, in very simple terms, the LLM is all about processing information and producing a response in natural conversational language. So the LLM puts together your answer, and it's not done at this point because now that answer has to go to post-processing. That's the second difference that you won't find with the other technologies. Post-processing is basically about security checks and balances to make sure that there's nothing in that answer that you do not have permission to see. The permissions and the policies come into play even within Copilot. It checks to make sure there's nothing in there that you're not supposed to see and only the information that you actually have permission to have access to. When those checks and balances are taken care of, finally, that response is sent as an output back to the user. And it only takes seconds. But those are the steps of how Copilot works versus something like ChatGPT. When you type in your prompt, it goes into the technology, it scours the web, puts together a response, spits that back out to you. There's your response. It takes answers. With Copilot, it goes through your Microsoft data, creates the response, checks to make sure there's nothing in there that you're not supposed to see, and then spits out your response. Those are the differences that you'll see Copilot versus the others. It's
Andrew,
secure.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I was just going to say, I always like examples, and this is really has shows how what you just described really works. We in my office, Pat does our AR. If I want to request information for about my AR, I can request that with a prompt. It goes out and it knows that Pat is the person who does work on the AR. So it will look for the data, including Pat and whatever she has done, whether it's in her emails or Excel spreadsheets, etc., to gather that information based on my prompt. I will then get that information. I have access to that information. However, Tara, who is in marketing, doesn't necessarily have access to the AR side. So if Tara were to prompt for that information, the security would say, wait a second, Tara doesn't have access to that information, even though the AI knows that Tara knows Pat, it would not provide that information. So this is how this really integrates and separates and secures your company information and makes sure that only the people who should have access to that information has access to that information. It's extremely complex, but very simple in concept. It's fantastic, and it does it, and just as Andrew said, in milliseconds, in seconds. So
Absolutely. And I appreciate that context. So that ties very well into the next thing that I'm going to share, which will just reaffirm what you just heard there from Eric, because the security piece, understandably, is the number one concern that people have when it comes to AI in general. All I'm trying to share with you on behalf of Microsoft is that introducing something like Copilot, which is AI embedded technology, you're introducing that into an environment you have control of. So you get to limit, restrict the access that the technology has, but it's based on the user. Whatever you want the user to see, Copilot will also see. Whatever you do not want the user to see, Copilot will not see. Watch this.
Microsoft 365 Copilot works with the data security controls you have in place for file access, labeling, classification, and data loss prevention. Mario Rogers works for Violet Martinez, and both are on the same team at Contoso. Mario and Violet are also members in the same group working on Project Falcon. Now we'll start with Violet, who's been working with the procurement and contract management teams to sell their partner ReliCloud 1,500 Mark 8 quadcopters. And you can see the file is labeled highly confidential with restricted access, and it describes all the terms in the purchase agreement. Because Violet has access to the file, she's able to search for and find it in SharePoint and Microsoft365.com. And of course, Violet can also navigate to the file's location in the Agreements folder of the project site to find the purchase agreement. So now let's look at Mario's experience. Even though he's on the same team and working on Project Falcon with Violet, if Mario tries to search for the Contoso purchase agreement, he won't find it. And there are a few purchasing documents that he does find without sensitive information, but not the one that Violet's working on. And if Mario knows the location of the purchase agreement and tries to navigate to it directly, it just appears as an empty folder to him. And when Mario launches Word on the web and creates a blank document, then prompts Microsoft 365 Copilot to summarize the Contoso purchase agreement as a reference file, because Microsoft 365 Copilot respects the file permissions of its user, Copilot also cannot access the purchase agreement. Now, if we switch back to Violet's screen, because she has permission to access the purchase agreement, she can use Microsoft 365 Copilot to summarize the file. And after a moment, you'll see it created a summary of the purchase agreement, and Violet decides to keep it. Then data security controls for Microsoft Purview discover sensitive information found in the Microsoft 365 Copilot generated content. The document is automatically labeled as highly confidential, and policies are enforced to restrict access to the document.
All right. So intentionally spent a little bit of time or a little bit more time on the security piece, because once again, that more than anything else is key to the potential next step that businesses are going to make. This is a product, this is a solution that's been generally available since January of this year. And it is, okay, I'll use the expression, it sounds corny, flying off the shelf. But it's been flying off the shelf once businesses have become comfortable with the security aspect. The question has always been, yes, but is my data protected? And maybe that's because of a person who has watched AI Robot too many times, or maybe the Terminator. There's movies and there's information out there, not to make light of it, that have caused people to have some concern. But once again, here's what I would like you to take away from what I've shared thus far, and then I'll actually show you now some examples of what it looks like in action. Here's what I would like you to take away, among other things. If you have been confident, comfortable, satisfied, well, maybe satisfied is not the word, but you've been confident that you have the right policies and permissions and security protections in place, and that your data and identities have been and continue to be safe and protected, then when you introduce this solution into that environment, it is going to inherit everything that is already there. Nothing is going to be broken. On the other hand, if maybe you've been a little bit sluggish in managing or the management of your security, then I would certainly encourage you to sign up for an assessment of your environment, a risk assessment. What files and folders need to have security of some type applied to them? Maybe the policies and permissions that have been in place for the last year have become outdated, and you need to reassess who has access to what and when and for what reasons. This is a conversation I would encourage you to have with CNW. That is something that they'll be able to help you with, so that you have peace of mind, or dare I say peace of mind once again, as we are into this era of AI. Any questions or comments about that, or anything that you've seen, Tara, in the chat?
I have not as of yet.
Okay.
So feel free to drop comments if anything comes to mind.
All right, so I'm going to keep moving then as we're into the home stretch here. Let me show you some quick examples of Copilot in action. First of all, let me show you an example of Copilot in Outlook. Don't be confused by my saying Copilot in Outlook. This is one of the features that you would find once you get your copy of Microsoft 365 Copilot. Remember, it adds AI to the apps that already exist in your Microsoft 365 license, which means you have Outlook. So here's what Outlook will look like with AI. And hopefully you can see this. There's a bar or a button near the top here that says Summary by Copilot. That is one of the features that you get with your subscription. In Outlook, you can use the summary feature to get through your emails a little bit more quickly. This is a time-saving feature benefit. This email, it's it's a general email, public email, if you will. Just something I put together for the purpose of this exercise. It's about Microsoft Defender for Business, another Microsoft product. Great discussion that you might be interested in having sometime in the future. It is a summary, and then I took this summary and forwarded it to my coworker. Her name is Rome, and then she replied to say thank you. Some of you may get longer email threads than this. Maybe if your role is one that requires people to contact you to get approvals, you probably get inundated with email on a daily basis. What does your inbox look like after you've been away just for a 3-day weekend? What does your inbox look like when you come back from a holiday? You have hundreds of email in there. This is something that you may find absolutely beneficial. So I'm going to click on Summary by Copilot. And it is obviously going to give me a summary of this not so long email, but here, for example, 5 lines to summarize this email. So the longer the email, the more valuable I think you're going to find this. So first of all, it says, Rome, who's my coworker, thank me for sharing information about this product. I provided details about the product. I compared antivirus to security checkpoint and some other things. I mentioned that Microsoft Defender for Business is available. And then the last line, I included a link for booking a meeting with me if that's something that Rome wanted to do. Here's the application for this. If it takes you the whole day to get through most, if not all, of the email in your inbox, and you've got to go through them in detail because if someone's asking for something, you need to find that so you can respond, or who knows what the content happens to be. If you're able to summarize that email, it'll give you a gist of what it's all about. This is now going to allow you to say, okay, I don't need to respond to this now. I'm going to respond to it later. This is going to allow you to prioritize the email in your inbox. So the things that really are critical that need a response now, you'll be able to identify those quickly and respond to them now. Those that don't need a response now, you'll be able to defer them to later in the day. This is going to help save time because now you're not committed to having to go through every email to identify if it's important and then identify what needs to be done. Hopefully that is value that you would recognize in something like this. Once again, if you spend your entire day in Outlook, in addition to other activities that you need to accomplish over the course of the day. The other thing that I'm going to share or do here is, I guess, also obvious when it comes to Outlook. You use it to write email. So here I am still in Outlook, and I'm going to just click New to start a new email. Because I have the subscription, you can see in the body of the email, it says Draft with Copilot. It's a link that I can click on, or above, you can see there's a Copilot button. Either of these will get me to where I need to, and this is what I mean. When I click on Draft with Copilot, it opens a prompt window. For those of you who are familiar with using AI, you know what the prompt window is. This is where you type in what you need to have happen. Let me also make this point. The more we use AI and the more AI becomes a part of our day-to-day life, there's going to be a shift. It's not so much about the doing of the work. It is now going to be incumbent upon each user, upon each of you, to become good at the instructions that you give for the work to be done. Case in point, here I am in Copilot. I want an email written. So I'm saying to Copilot, draft an email to the Director of Operations to say that the new project is called CCE and it's off to a really good start. I could write that. All of us who use email would have to write something like this. Maybe take some seconds or minutes to figure out, okay, how am I going to craft this, how am I going to write it, etc. You're just going to tell Copilot to do it, or you're going to tell the technology to do it. The better you are at this piece will allow for the output become better. No, let me say that differently. The better you are at this, the better the responses will be. If you haven't found that the responses you get are satisfactory to you, it may well be tied to the quality of the input, the prompt that you type in. This is the new skill set. You're going to find people coming out of school because they're using this in school. Rest assured. You're going to find people coming out of school who are going to be really excellent at prompting. You're going to want to flag that in addition to all the other requirements that you want to have the job filled. But prompt engineering is the new skill set that is going to become very valuable. So here's what Copilot has provided. Just make that a little bit larger. Hello, and then I left the space for me to insert the person's name if I want to do that. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to share some exciting news regarding our new project, which is called CCE. Next paragraph. The team has been incredibly enthusiastic. And see, I didn't ask Copilot to include a whole lot of info. I just said draft an email to provide an update. And it understands what that means, and it provided some filler context. I look forward to keeping you updated with more positive developments, etc. Best regards, Andrew Brathwaite. Not bad. And if I think, well, okay, I don't like that, give me another version, I can come down here, click retry, and it will regenerate another one. You can also do your own edits, or you can ask Copilot to do the editing. Here, for example, edit prompts, I'm clicking on this button, and I can just click this. It'll make it longer, shorter, more formal, more direct, casual, or make it a poem. If your work environment is such that poems would go over well and be well received, then by all means, you could use that. I could say, make it more direct. And so it's going to create another version. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to share some exciting news, et cetera, et cetera. So I can compare this to the previous version. It doesn't delete previous versions because at the end of the day, it's up to me to decide which one I like best. This is a co-pilot. It is not an autopilot. It's going to do what you ask, do what you request, but the adult in the room still has to be a human being, which is you. You make the final determination as to what ultimately gets shared with other people. So if I click back, it's going to show me the previous version. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to share, etc. And there's 3 paragraphs in this one, whereas this one is only 2 paragraphs. And let's say I wanted to keep this. I could then make the final touch-ups. Hello, maybe the person's name is Joe, and away we go. I hope this finds you well. I wanted to share, etc. I look forward, blah, blah, blah. Best regards. I already have my signature, which is by default with my email, so I could remove this. But you can see how you can work with this. So the summary or the moral of the story here is that you can use Outlook to summarize emails in your inbox. You can also use Outlook for what's most obvious, which is to write or draft an email. Let me show you something else here. Let me close this. So that's an example of Copilot in one of the apps. Let me show you this, which is now a feature that is in Teams. So yes, Copilot is in Teams, and I'll show you how you can use that with meetings. But we were just in Outlook. What if I just came back for an email from a vacation or a long time off, and I've got hundreds of email in my inbox? What do I do with that? How do I prioritize them? You could come and ask Copilot to do that prioritization for you. For example, I have a prompt that I've copied here, so let me use this. So hopefully you can see this. It's kind of small at the bottom, but it says, please review my inbox and organize email with me in the to line. So as opposed to maybe if I'm in the CC, I don't necessarily want to prioritize right away. From the past week, highlight any urgent or important messages that require my immediate attention. Summarize the key points of these emails and provide links to the original messages for quick access. I just click go or send, and it's going to do that for me. And I'm going to explain where I am that I'm actually doing this, all right? Now, as I said, I'm in Teams. And the reason why I'm in Teams, because there is a chat feature in Teams when you have the Copilot subscription. And what I would do for those of you who work in Teams a lot, good for you, bravo. There's a chat button, as you would know, and when you click chat, then you will find, once you have the subscription, a chat, another Copilot button. This is Copilot Business Chat or Business Biz Chat, which has access to all of your Microsoft apps. So it's not limited to Copilot in Outlook or Copilot in Word. This is Copilot across all of your apps, which is why it's able to pull from Outlook when I ask this question. And so you can see here that, sure, Andrew, let's go through your inbox and highlight. So Copilot has gone through my inbox and it's looked at all of the email that I have in my inbox, and it's figured out that, all right, here's what those things are. And it allows me to choose from what's here to get my work done. And from here, I can sort through my email and prioritize what needs to be prioritized or things like that. Any questions or comments there? I'd be particularly interested to know if anyone is able to manage their inbox as efficiently as that, and you probably can. My question is, do you find this would allow you to up your game or improve on that skill that you already have? No? Okay. I see there's a Q&A. What is the price for each Copilot license? Well, I can give you the MSRP. The MSRP from Microsoft, if you go to their website, is going to say $30 per month, but the reality is it's an annual subscription. So it's actually $360 MSRP per user per year. So hopefully that helps. All right, so with the time that's left, I will show you an example of Copilot in Microsoft Teams. If you're not using Teams today, you're using some other meeting, conferencing type thing, fantastic. At least you are making use of the virtual technology that's there. But I would suggest that you would want to step up your game and start working with Microsoft Teams because of the variety of options that are going to be available to you, not the least of which being able to leverage Copilot in Teams.
I don't know if there's audio or not, but we're not hearing any audio on this side, so.
All right, I apologize for that. Let me restart it.
Imagine you have an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With Copilot, you can opt to follow a meeting. After the meeting ends, Copilot will summarize what you missed. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. This recap will highlight content that was shared, summarize notes, and any action items for you or others whose names were mentioned. You see that one of your customers was discussed, and you want to learn more. You can ask Copilot clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. It can tell you why a certain decision was made, and gives you helpful context. You can even ask Copilot what.
I'm sorry, let me try that again. This is not typical of this.
We're all familiar with the technology issues. That's why we're in business in technology.
Yeah, I don't like when it happens though. Okay, let's see if we can move this forward a bit.
Imagine you have an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review.
No, all right. We'll have to watch it from the beginning.
Imagine you have an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With Copilot, you can opt to follow a meeting. After the meeting ends, Copilot will summarize what you missed. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. This recap will highlight content that was shared, summarize notes, and any action items for you or others whose names were mentioned. You see that one of your customers was discussed, and you want to learn more. You can ask Copilot clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. It can tell you why a certain decision was made, and gives you helpful context. You can even ask Copilot what other solutions were considered, and it provides citations from the transcript so you can see where Copilot drew these conclusions. It's a huge time saver. So that was pretty cool. But the real magic of Copilot happens during a live meeting. Let's say you're in a meeting with your team. You can ask Copilot to summarize the meeting so far. You can see how it summarizes who said what points were made, and it's really capturing the spirit of the discussion. And as the meeting progresses, you can check in on where people stand. You can even ask Copilot what questions are unresolved. It's just amazing to see this happen in real time during a meeting.
Wow. Okay. So I hope after all of those hiccups that that was still useful to you. Apologies again for the connectivity, but any questions or comments about anything that I've said or anything that you've seen here today? Perhaps if there's questions that you came to today's meeting with, have I been able to answer those questions, or has it generated more questions? It'd be great to get your feedback.
Well, I'd just like to interject, great job, Andrew. But, a lot of times when people are looking at how to implement this new technology, they need somebody to guide them through that. And that's what we are doing. I want to make sure that everybody who's on this webinar knows that we are service provider agnostic. We are providing AI, the Microsoft 365 Copilot solution, but you do not have to be our client to do that. We can provide that that support and direction separately of your existing service provider if you are not using us to provide those type of services. But we do go through we can provide, what we like to do is we like to set up and try to set up appointments to do a strategic review of the Microsoft 365 Copilot for your business. That's the first step. How is it going to work in your business? How are you going to utilize it? How will it be a benefit to you? And how will you get a return? And if there's a strategic fit, then we recommend, like Andrew mentioned, that risk assessment. Will your environment be ready to take on Copilot without the security risks? And what would be required, and basically an implementation plan on how Microsoft 365 Copilot would fit in your environment. And then, of course, we provide the implementation and training to get you rolling with it. And the ongoing aspect of it is the security training and support. The security piece is the ongoing aspect. Security changes. Security gets modified. Different people have to have access to different things at different times, and that's always. I'm so glad that Andrew spent that time on that security piece, because it is the biggest concern. What about my data? Who's going to get access to my data? And it's not just externally, it's internally as well. And that's what we manage, and that's what we do for you. So obviously, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. And thank you, Andrew, for the presentation. And Tara, well, I guess you can probably wrap things up if there's no questions.
Okay, and I did unmute the microphone, so if anybody does have any questions, please, you can unmute yourself and then ask them. We'd be more than happy to answer your questions. But I'll just wrap things up. Thank you so much, Andrew and Eric, for speaking today and kind of just going over all of the AI capabilities and what this product can do. It's a very in-depth product, but the advantages of it are definitely fascinating. As we conclude today's insightful session on the future of AI in the workplace, we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for your active participation and engagement. Your presence underscores the exciting journey we're all on as we embrace AI's transformative power in the business realm. To get started today with our new AI product, or for further information on how AI might be applicable in your business environment, please email C&W Technologies for a complimentary AI consultation at ai@cwnow.com or via phone at 772-287-5215. Please remember to complete the post-event survey, which will be sent via email post this webinar, as your feedback is invaluable to us and qualifies you for a special lunch gift card offer. We are genuinely thrilled about what the future holds for AI and look forward to sharing more innovative developments with you. Stay connected with C&W Technologies for upcoming events and updates. And together, let's continue to unlock the vast potential of AI. Thank you once again for joining us, and have a fantastic day.